Battalion War of the Ancients, a new head-to-head skirmish game of ancient conflict and tactics by Paolo Mori and Francesco Sirachi, is the kind of game to get obsessed over. No, not for everyone. It is a very fast, very conflict-heavy, unforgiving, and unconventional game of tactical warfare, with the strategy just as brutal as the dice rolls. But for some of you, you're going to be like, so what's the downside? And it's to you that I say, come on down the rabbit hole. Primarily a two-player game, though can be played with 4 players on teams, each player takes control of a unique historical military: the Roman Republic, Carthage, the Greco-Bactrian Kingdom, or the Han Empire, with undoubtedly plans for more if the game is a success. Each faction has loads of tiles called ranks that can be combined in various ways into units consisting of 1 to 3 ranks set into the 3 divided lanes that make up a battle. A lot of care went into designing these ranks. They define how much damage they can sustain for their unit, the total size the unit can be, what types of other ranks they can combine with, like cavalry can combine with cavalry, but some infantry can combine with range. Others are more dedicated. They also provide important abilities to their whole unit. For instance, a unit with just Numidian cavalry ranks would have Envelop, granting extra attack dice in the flanking sectors, whereas a unit with both Celt and Numidian cavalry, both being Carthage ranks, has both Impetus and Envelop, granting further attack dice on a charge, which is great, but units are more costly to activate when comprised of different types of soldiers, the price of forced intersectional cohesion. So you got your units, you got your lanes. These can either be set up based off of one of the prescribed set battles from the back of the rulebook, or using the mustered battle system where you and your opponent take turns setting up your ranks and your units and their positions based upon an agreed upon battle size. But once there, well, then you're off to the races in what is a mechanically very elegant, but strategically very daunting exchange of turns. Each turn, every turn, you are either spending command tokens to activate a single unit for an attack, usually against units on the opposite side of the sector, or you're rallying, a rest turn where you recover your spent command tokens, draw a new special tactics card, and flip over any remaining command tokens on your units that were on their disorder side to order, so that they can be recovered during your next rest action. Yeah, disorder. See, damage in this game, it is brutal because one way or another, it saps your resources. So let's say you're attacking with a unit. Well, you spend the necessary command on it, and then you declare if you're going to do a barrage, which is a ranged attack with a unit capable of doing said ranged attacks shown by white dice symbols, or do one of 2 types of melee attacks: an assault, which is where you do an attack with a unit that is already engaged with an opponent's unit. And how do you become engaged? Well, that's a good question. The last type of attack, and the second of the 2 types of melee attacks, is that you can do a charge, thrusting your unit forward, declaring I'm charging with these guys, and unless your opponent takes a reaction to either counter charge or do a ranged attack at an oncoming charging unit, both requiring that they spend their precious command tokens on your turn, then you get to go straight forward, choosing their unit forcibly and somewhat permanently engaging them together, and then make an attack against them. In either case, you roll dice, usually 3, though modified by various traits, and any 8s are auto successes, and other dice are assigned to the appropriate type of attack symbol on the unit at the requisite number or higher, inflicting 1 damage each, which again is so cool that these ranks are so individualistic in what they contribute to their unit and the tactics at play, because some of them might have multiple melee attacks in one single rank, sometimes it's at a higher number and a lower number, or sometimes it's more even in between. Or you might have a rank that can only hit once during a melee attack, but is almost a guaranteed success when it does so. Some may have the flexibility to do either melee or range, but aren't excellent at either. It's such a freaking cool system. But back to damage. When you do damage to an opponent, they either have to destroy the front ranks of the attacked unit with health equal to or higher than the damage, or take their precious unspent command tokens and place them on their unit on their disorder side, which can be up to the total unit's cohesion until the whole unit dies. This means your opponent is going to have fewer options on their turn, or going to have to rest earlier, and they're going to have less command tokens at their disposal because those that are out on disorder are just going to flip back to their order side when they do their next rest and have to wait until their next rest after that before they actually become available and usable again. And forcing your opponent to rest, while it's helpful that they get to draw a precious tactics card, which can really swing a battle, victory in this game is measured either by your opponent having no units in their central lane at the start of the turn, meaning you can just storm into their camp and automatically win, or if they have to draw a tactics card and their deck, which is a very slim deck equal to the number of units that you agreed upon for the battle, has run out. And with drawing a starting hand of 2, every time you have to rest, that is setting the primary clock of the game that you're working against. From there, it's raw tactics and who you attack, when, and why, which isn't to say it's without nuance. The tactics cards are important for incredibly strong abilities, but are just as likely to be discarded at the start of your turn to optionally move an unengaged unit to another zone. And there's layers to the simple framework of barrage, assault, or charge in who an engaged unit can or cannot attack or be attacked. There's even double engaging an enemy unit, giving extra dice with each attack and more flexible unit use, as acting with a unit costs more the more command tokens already spent on them before resting. Do you charge their ranged unit to force engagement where they can't shoot, or take on their heaviest hitters? Either way, melee confrontation allows a surviving defender to counterattack, so can you take those hits? But for all these layers, the game itself is tight. Experienced players will be getting a medium-sized skirmish done in 30 to 40 minutes, though if mustering units rather than playing a set battle, expect to add some time onto that. A huge part of the joy and mental space of this game is as much about unit composition and formation as it is the battle when you get there. And with 4 factions in the box, there's a lot to explore. Unique strengths of each faction and pairings of ranks, either with a focused group of soldiers of one type or combining strengths with one another, not to mention the broad range of tactics cards. Like everything else, the game does a great job of giving you a lot with what seems initially like very little. One caveat that I want to give to this review is that I'm not as thoroughly versed in the world of historical wargaming as I'd like to be. I mean, sure, I have my favorites. I absolutely adore Pax Pamir 2nd Edition, and I obsessively play and collect the Undaunted series, but there's a whole world out there that I'm not super familiar with. But even still, Battalion feels like something new, something really bold. The fact that there's no map to speak of, yet positional tactics are keenly felt throughout the game, that there's a huge amount of nuance in composition and engagement, but games take a short amount of time, and the presentation of the interlocking ranks with their bold Art Deco illustrations looks fabulous. But all that said, this is a game where surface level appreciation, breaking it out a couple times, occasionally playing, you're going to continually feel like you're just picking up the basics. This is a game that demands and deserves getting obsessed with, and even for me, there's such a level of specificity that it's hard to imagine giving it that sort of dedicated focus with the game group that I have. But for those of you who love rich, tactical conflict heavy games who have the opportunity to immerse yourself in the same game again and again, then I have a feeling this is going to get its hooks into you deep and you're not ever going to want to let it go. That's our review. But let me know, what are your favorite historical war games and what do you think of this game? Put it in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, thanks for being such a great community. You know that I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald.